Hey everybody, this is Sean. Sean is one of our Brilliant Bookkeeper students and has a really fascinating story that we're going to dig into today. But he was asking about the podcasts, and I was just kind of telling him about like what we're doing with the podcast. We've recorded so far 23 episodes of this. Prior podcast that I did for the Laptop Empires podcast, we did like 200 episodes, and then we got burnt out on doing it. So the whole idea with this podcast was like, I'm just going to bring people on and talk to them. Like no topics, no script or anything like that. And I don't do preloaded questions or anything like that, just because I feel like I could do this one for a very long time and never actually run out of things to talk about because I'm just talking to interesting people. And that brings us to today. John, you've done very well in our Brilliant Bookkeeper program. I think you've been in the program since 2024. Is that right? February of 2024?
I think that's fair to say. Consistently, I should say.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So you've been here since probably right around, I think we launched it originally in like 2023 was when we first launched the program. And then we did another relaunch of it in like late January of 24.
Yep.
And now we open it up quarterly. So you've been around for a while. So tell the audience about your story. Like how did you even find yourself? Because I know you didn't have any business experience, like owning your own business experience coming into this, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Okay.
So for me to start my journey, the beginning of the journey was really, I think when you launched that course in the beginning, I think it's one of the first people to buy the course. And I did that because I've been unhappy in the corporate world for quite a long time. And it's challenging, especially for large banks where they're always constantly shuffling folks around and doing riffs and then mass hires and riffs again. And, always having that worry in the back of your mind. And, someone told me, it's like, well, you got a skill set to be a business manager. Or like, well, what does that really mean exactly? Because like I did some business management stuff. It's like, well, I mean, like, you could do, a lot of different things, including bookkeeping. It's like, all right, okay, cool. So I thought of that. And then when your course came out for bookkeeping, because I did do the Facebook side hustle.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. That lasted 2 weeks. I think I talked to one client. It's like, you know what? This is not me. And that same guy told me, like, dude, that's not you. That's not you. Like, you can't do that. So like, all right. So I dropped that right away. Then I went to the bookkeeping course. Oh, great. This is great. This is definitely more. I can do this. I took the course with the intent of being a side hustle. And then, I got busy. So I think maybe halfway through the course, maybe got through the whole course, but it certainly didn't last very long. And I put it on a shelf. And then it started getting, it's interesting. Your timing around January, where you opened it January 24. So like I was at a corporate job and was very excited about it. And I was there for under a year and was getting set up for promotion and all this great stuff is coming to, hey, this is great. And then literally the rug got pulled up under me where I got let go, and I had no idea it was coming. Like usually these things, I was able to kind of prepare myself and move on to a different role when I think something was happening, or it flat out said, hey, if you sold the business, you're out of here in 6 months. So, but in this case, I had no idea what was happening. So most of my team, myself, my boss, and a third of his organization were all let go on the same day.
Wow. Was it just a corporate restructure that they were doing?
It was cost cutting. They weren't, they were worried about, the margins. They're worried about margins, and they decided to cut a bunch of people. Now I knew that like the work that I was doing at the time wasn't too much value add to the bottom line. It was definitely overhead. So there was a little bit of concern there, and I was trying to figure, may need to make a change, but I was very excited where I was. But in any case, I was, out on the street, barely any severance. It's like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So obviously I was looking for a job, but at the same time, I think probably one of your emails reminded me, hey, I got this course. I thought, oh, you know what? I signed up for that thing last year. So you know what? Let's actually put the effort in. Do the things that you're supposed to do and actually go do it. Build it as in the same intent to do it as a side thing and see what happens. And then, long story short up in there, because I can keep going and going. Here I am today doing it basically full time.
Yeah, that was so I'd sent an email out to the list. You mentioned it before we started recording. That was actually to me, that was a very cool moment, just because, we had to reschedule this podcast because my schedule is a disaster right now. But as I was doing that, I was really worried because I actually saw your bio inside of Circle, which is our course community.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was like an older bio.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I have a bio out there. I need to take a look at it.
It's like a resume.
Super
bio.
old.
Yeah, it's like a resume bio. So it was like, I do, financial analytics, or I can't remember exactly what it said in there, but I was like, I was like, crap. I hope he didn't have to like take off of work to do this podcast and I rescheduled on you and everything. But then your response is like, no, I'm pretty open. I'm doing this full time. And that to me is really cool because that's kind of the dream of what we do. I mean, the reality of, our whole company, Stellar Brands, the mission of it is to create and scale entrepreneurs. And that's evolved over a very long period of time. And it used to just be me running a personal finance blog. And then we started running courses and things like that. Now it's kind of turned into like, we want to help people that are doing exactly what you're doing. And so I showed it to the team. I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like Sean is doing this full time. But that's just like it's cool to see that kind of the mission kind of like manifest in real life with people. And so I was very excited about that. When did you consider yourself doing this full time instead of side hustle? Like when did that shift for you?
Well, I don't know. So I guess I continue the story shortly. So like when I go last February, obviously I was looking for another job and doing this at the same time, saying I meant to do this on the side and I stopped. It's like, I'm not going to let that do it. I'm not going to not have a side hustle ever again because I cannot have all my eggs in one basket and depend on one person to guide my life. Right. Yeah. So I knew that was the intent. As I was doing both, like I realized like, man, like it's really tough out there with the job market. Mm-hmm. Like I had one interview that was strong that should have gotten the job and I didn't. It's like, okay, this is not great. Now, eventually I did land a contract role. So it was supposed to be a year-long contract, and then negotiated my rate, so they cut it to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I was doing that, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable there. And at the same time, like it was like focusing more on this. It was like, this is what I really want to do. I'm excited about this. It's definitely a challenge doing on top of everything else, but like this is what I was getting excited about this. And then again, right out of blue, no warning, nothing. It wasn't even my employer did. It was the contracting company that called me and said, yeah, your contract is ending early.
Yeah.
And like, really? And so they let me go right before Thanksgiving.
Oh, jeez.
So like, right before the holidays is the worst time to be looking for another job. I was like, you know what? Like, okay, I'm not quite there yet to do this just 100%. I don't have the income. I just don't. So they keep going and keep looking. But like, I definitely was not as aggressive, was not as interested because like, I just don't want to do that anymore. And then I hung on to a couple other contracting companies who were saying, hey, may have something, but like every 2 weeks, the same call. It's like, we got something. And like, they're nothing. And they're like, okay. So it's kind of more like I stopped looking probably in January. So it's like, if I get this other contract thing, like great, I'll do it and I'll suck it up for the period of time that does take me to launch this thing. But like I'm going all in on this because I just keep reading how hard the job market is, and I'm not getting any younger, and I'd rather be doing my own thing, control my own destiny than relying on a company anymore. And that's what really so it was really more like kind of, I think the good Lord, said, you need to go in this direction, and he more kind of like shoved me. Right. So it's kind of where it happened. But like, as time has gone on, now I'm at the point where if someone does reach out to me, it's going to be like, yeah, no, thanks. I'm really at that point where it's like, I think I'm good.
I quit my job. I mean, I was a band director, 10 years ago. And I didn't have kids or anything at the time. And my wife and I weren't even married at the time, but we were about to get married. I quit my job like literally a month before we got married. And so I think that like the youth part of that was very helpful for us because I just told her, I came in, she knew I was miserable. And we were still renting a room from her parents at the time. Like we had not really started our life very much. But I was coming home and I was just like, I freaking hate what I'm doing. And I was just like, I think I'm going to go full time with my blog, Millennial Money Man, which back in the day sounds insane because I was not making any money, but I was just so done working for other people that I was just like, I have to do this. And my wife was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like that's great. We'll just figure it out. But like I said, I think that was youth because her parents were like, you're going to do what? Like, you're going to quit your job and do what? Like work for yourself and just have a blog. And they had seen people that actually they had owned a business at one point that had failed, and that was obviously a very bad period of time for them. And so they were watching me walk into this and were like, this is a bad idea. Like you need the steady paycheck. You need this. You're about to marry our daughter. And I don't think my wife, I mean, it took me a long time to like get to the point where I felt like I'd made it, like what you were saying, like where I was like, okay, we're going to be fine for months. And I don't know if you felt this way or not. I was every month it like reset back to zero for me. I was like, I gotta hustle. Like I feel like I'm screwed. I'm gonna go out of business. And my wife, because it's like the spouse can't see what you're doing every day, really. It's like they kind of hear stories about it and they kind of know that you're working on something. But especially with an online business, I feel like it's very obscure in a way.
Yep.
And so it took her a long time to like finally understand what I was doing. And I would imagine that would be the same thing for you and for your wife. And like, it just takes a long time to like, you can talk about that you were hustling all day, but like until people see it, it doesn't really
Yeah.
land.
I mean, I think it's like, I do give her updates all the time. I try to keep her engaged as much so that she has the sense that like, hey, I'm just sitting here locked away in my office all day, not doing God knows what, right? So, but I think she's also going to be helping with the business for a bit. She's starting to do some of the simpler stuff. Yeah, she's been doing that for a few months now, but like she does some work for the preschool that her kids went to. So she was in the corporate world too. She absolutely hated it, and I let her quit when we had her second because I think it's the only way that would keep her sanity around the house. So she got to the point where she really loved doing that stuff with the preschool, and she realized the people there, so she kind of like did it, but obviously doesn't pay nearly as much as she used to make her really, anything kind of reasonable now. But so I said, I can have you help with the business, and that'll really help us out. Now the challenge is like I got timing for things, and like this week she's supposed to be doing some of the easier stuff for my for the business, and she has to do this other thing. Well, I guess I got to do it. So I got and I put it all on me, where I need to design a system. I have some procedures documented already for how to handle each client and what to do, but I think I need an actual like I don't want to. I gotta be very careful what we dump in here, like an actual job description or an actual like system. So like I think now I have enough income coming in where I may try the Ignition app. I need another like some kind of workflow app because QuickBooks sucks. It sucks. I can't stand it. I just this month to decide. I'm not even going to use it anymore. It's doing zero value. So I need some type of workflow tool to kind of help me keep us organized and communicated. Where like, hey, this is where you're at. Like kind of like having like a real set of responsibilities I can truly scale. Because right now I can work a lot of hours and cover it. It's fine. But at some point, if I continue to scale, like I can't do that. So I really do need her help now. Like whatever, and she doesn't have the background, so like she needs the repetition to be able to get used to doing things the right way and organized until she really starts to understand it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that's a cool place to be in business. I mean, it's so interesting. It's like what I've found is that you kind of like your problems, you never run out of problems running a business. They just change over time. And you're, I think, in one of the best places where you're like, okay, I can take on more business, but I need to figure out how to put some systems in place and some structure in place to where I can actually do it without losing my mind. Cause that's the next part where it's all of a sudden you become overworked. And so I think it's smart for you to think about that. Like probably
I've been thinking about it like 3 months ago, whereas like, I know I'm going to get to a point because I've run operations. I ran large operations teams, and that's how my mind works, right? So I know at some point, like I need to be structured and organized in a way to when the fires do come up, I can easily fix them and move going without completely losing my mind. Because I see it from the small business now, and like I know how it is, in my former life, where the more organized you are, like you have key people solving the problems and the engine just keeps going underneath with the regular stuff. Like that's what you need to have happen because you're going to get problems all the time. That's just business.
Yeah. How long were you in the corporate world?
20 plus years.
So a long time. So I noticed in the kind of questionnaire thing that you filled out before we did this, that you were talking about how your life is different now than it was before. And a lot of it's centered around family, but I wanted to dig into that because I think a lot of people, when they think about starting a business, I think there's a conception, probably a misconception actually, that you start a business and it's like, you just have to grind 24/7 and your life is basically over and you never see your kids and all of that. But it sounds like your experience has not been that, and that you probably have more freedom now than you did before.
Yeah, I do. And I think, I think that may change as I start to get actually busy now, because a lot of focus has been on getting business, but now that I actually have to do work on top of that, it is going to be, that's where I need to get more structured around how do I organize my day and things. To your point, yeah, I mean, I think I've definitely experienced a lot of the benefits of owning a business outside of financial stuff, which I hope that's coming very soon.
Yeah.
It's really just like, again, I'm in control of my own destiny. Like I'm the boss of me. I hold
Yeah.
myself accountable. And I give myself the flexibility. Now I think I've learned that skill over the past, some odd years going through the pandemic. Cause like we were at home. I was like, how do I manage a team of 20
Right.
that are all over the country from my office in my home? Like how do I do
Yeah.
that? I used to travel to be with them. So like so I learned all the skills to be able to keep in touch and engage with the team remotely through that experience. And then also it's like, I got some flexibility around here. Like I always commuted like over an hour to get to where I was, always had to be in these, you always had to be in this building at this time or move over here in this time. Very, very structured. Whereas like now I feel like, man, there's so many minutes in the day. They don't realize that you're being wasted doing things,
Yeah.
that you now suddenly have, right? So now you're able now, but so that's a blessing and a curse because now you got to figure out, okay, when do I do this? Like, when do I do this? Like, it's really all on you. Like, I think I
Yeah.
heard someone say one time where like, it's like how some people try to go to business for themselves. Like it can't even be managed by somebody. How can they go in business for themselves when they're not? No one is holding them accountable. They're not going to get anything done,
Right.
right? But I've
Well,
always been a very results focused person.
yeah.
Whereas I know the goal, I know what the result to achieve is. I'll do what it takes to get there.
You're a self-driven person, which is you need that. And I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that start businesses because they think that the lifestyle could be, I get to do whatever I want all day long, and this is great. And you can run a business like that. You're just not going to make tons of money.
Right.
I think,
Right. Yeah.
and that's actually, I'm curious about the first couple of weeks after you basically decided like, okay, I'm not going to go after the corporate jobs anymore. I'm just going to do this. After I quit my job, it took me a while to realize this. I think I got depressed. I think because I was in a position where I was like working in coffee shops every day and like I didn't feel like, I felt like I was lazy in a way, even though I
Mm-hmm.
was not a lazy person, but I just didn't have a lot of business at the time. So it was like,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
I was just kind of like sitting there and I was like refreshing the email inbox, like just waiting for things to come in and hoping that I would make some more money. And there was a long period of time, several months, where I felt like I was in like zombie world or something. Cause you go to the grocery store in the middle of the day and there's like nobody's there, and this was
Right.
back a little bit, this is before the pandemic. So
Okay.
remote work was not as much of a thing, but it
Right.
felt very lonely for me. And that's
Yeah.
when I would decide like, I need to start hiring some people and I need to like build a team around me, cause I need to be around people. Did you
Yeah.
go through any weird period like that?
Yeah, I think I can relate to that, but I think it's a little bit different. Where like for me, it was the harsh reality of not getting a job right away, which had never happened to me. I've been
Yeah.
never before this last thing, and never been out of work for more than 2 weeks, or
Yeah.
maybe less than that. So that was a big shock. But as I went to the contract gig, because you know what, this is probably the last thing, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
probably it. And I'm already kind of mentally preparing myself. It's like I really need to ramp up, my business as much as I can because this is probably it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I mentally prepared myself. So when the time did come where even though I was expecting to stay on much longer, I wasn't shocked, and I was like, okay, all right, so now what? So
Right.
we need to spend a lot more time going all in on this. Luckily, I was in a position to be able to handle that, and I think I've laid a lot of groundwork up until that time, and I grinded, and I put in a lot of effort to build a foundation to help set me up for that success.
Yeah.
And I think it really is just, yeah, there are times where, I mean, there's always doubts, right? And it's like, you
Yes.
can't do this. But you find, for me, and I don't know how personal I get with here, but I think I kind of returned religion a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of helped ground me, say, hey, and it was a book that I read. I meant to bring it out. I forgot what it's, I think it's sitting over here. Oh, here we go. Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
So Think and Grow Rich, was a book that I read that someone recommended to me. Basically what it says, I mean, it gives you all the different details where a lot of the other management books are based off of.
Mm-hmm.
But the premise of it is like, if you say you're going to be something and you're going to do something and you really commit to that and you really feel and believe that, it'll happen.
Yeah.
And so I kind of try to take that approach to, and I think, it helped me overcome all the challenges that happen, like sometimes on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
And the doubts that creep in, I kind of return to that and I say, hey, it's going to be fine.
I never believed, I didn't even know what manifestation was, or, you hear all the kind of woo woo stuff that you need to do as an entrepreneur, if you have dreams or whatever. I never believed in that idea until I started a business, because what I did realize is that the more that I dream about the things that I want and I tell myself that it's going to happen. And I don't, and the way that I try to do it is, if I say, instead of saying like, it would be great if I could, buy a vacation house in this place, it's like, I'm going to do it. The more you start talking to yourself that way, the more these things actually happen.
That's right.
It's pretty incredible. And it's kind of the power of the mind thing, but
it is. And I think that mindset
incredible.
sets you up to do the things that you need to do, and it trains your brain to get you to do the things that you need to do to achieve that.
Yeah, it's very real.
You say I would like to, I think there's already doubt set it in.
Yeah,
and once you start with the doubt, the brain gets lazy and doesn't want to go after it.
Have you noticed, because this is something that I've noticed with that is, and I didn't just like one day wake up and say, I'm going to start manifesting things, but it's a mindset that developed over time. Mm-hmm. Now I can see when other people aren't doing that very quickly.
Yep.
Like, do you, when you talk to other people sometimes and you hear them talk about their dreams or anything like that, like, do you hear that kind of that doubt from them?
Oh, maybe I've done that having those types of conversations with folks, because I haven't really seen that. Now that you told me, I think I will see it now going forward.
Right, sure.
Now you put it out there. I mean, like a lot of groups, a lot of people, I think it's another important thing. Like I surround myself with very positive, business-minded people. Like I'm spending all my time networking. Mm-hmm. I've really seen my friends and other people like much, really in the past year as compared to the other people networking. And I think that helps play off, the mindset too. You surround yourself with those types of people, and these are people who started with nothing too, and now they have multi-million-dollar businesses, and and they're doing the same thing I'm doing.
Right.
So I think that just in itself is like, yeah, I'll get there. I'm doing the same thing he is. What makes him any more special than me?
Yeah, well, that is the thing I have noticed too. Because as I've gotten further into business, I've met increasingly successful people that it's not, I don't want to like say it like I'm putting somebody down, like they're not any more special than me, but it's like you kind of realize that you're like, wait a second, they're not really that much more right. talented or anything than me. They just literally, one, it's time in the game, and two, it's just working hard. But I have some friends that have achieved some pretty incredible things and have some great, very, very successful businesses, and they started from nothing and they just kept going and they kept grinding, which was, I was going to talk to you about this later, but that was at the end of the questionnaire thing. It was just kind of like, what's your advice for other people that are starting a business? And I love what you put. It was just keep going. And so like, that's really true. And you really just kind of keep grinding and you keep going and you don't stop. But the big thing I want to talk to you about, because you mentioned that client acquisition was probably the most difficult part of this. And so I'm just curious how was that surprising to you when you started getting into it? Like, what was the hard part about that? Because I 100% agree with you. And that's what most people
I mean, I think that's probably for any business. Like, why do you think, all these people spend so much money on advertising and marketing? Mm-hmm. Because that is the hardest part about getting challenged, not getting customers to show up to your door. Yeah. Why do you think McDonald's, they're the most well-known business in the world, still puts out millions and millions of dollars of advertising?
Right.
Because it's
hard.
It's hard. That's right. It's exactly right. Why? So it is the hardest thing. So like I knew going in, even with experience with the Facebook thing, was like the hardest thing is going to be, getting the clients, like how, and just getting started. Like, how do I do that? Well, one, I had no idea how to do a business at all, right? We're talking about. And then two, obviously all those things that come along with it, most notably client acquisition. And that's why I went to, hey, I know I liked the stories that you had with Mike. Was it Mike for the Facebook thing? And Kristen seemed to be great. So I was like, yeah, definitely sign up. Definitely sign up. Definitely do this. This is my wheelhouse. And to just get me started, just to figure out. And all the videos you put out there for the client acquisition thing was also very, very helpful for me to at least start. Because I didn't even think about going to a chamber of commerce. Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about trying to do Upwork. Think about using LinkedIn as a potential platform for things. I had no idea, or how to even go about doing those things. So watching those classes really, really got me started.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part of anything, is getting to the start. So I'll give you and the team credit for getting me off the ground, literally off the ground, so to speak, because like that is the hardest part.
Well,
I learned so much more from other avenues, but you guys were to start, and that's why I kept sticking around and maybe try to pay for it a little bit, because I'm so grateful for what you and your team have done to at least get me pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's the client acquisition thing is the hardest thing. Back when we started Facebook Side Hustle in 2018, I mean, I think we had 2 client acquisition strategies. That the number one thing that determines if somebody comes into a program and they make it or they don't, it's always the client acquisition piece, because it is absolutely the hardest thing. Because most people, myself included, when I started a business, like I never sold myself, as a, person that could provide services or do anything. What we just found that people were really, it's like, if they were introverted, they didn't want to go to a chamber of commerce, or they just didn't think that something would work for them. And so we just started stacking as many client acquisition trainings as we possibly could, because the reality is there's so many different ways to get clients.
That's right.
And what we do, and I'm kind of, I know a little bit about what you're doing now, but what we do notice is that people usually will kind of pick one thing and they'll get a little bit of traction there, but that's not the thing that they actually end up doing long term. It's like I think people pick one thing like the Chamber of Commerce thing or Upwork or cold email or whatever, and then they'll get their first client under their belt and maybe their second one, and then they get a lot more confident. And then once they get more confident, then it's very easy for them to go out and just talk to people, because it's really what sales is. It's just kind of talking to people. And it's not, once you get into it, it's not quite as scary as you think, because you're really just solving problems. Mm-hmm. So for you, what was the first thing that you started doing? And then how have you tried to expand from there?
Yeah. So the first thing I tried was Upwork.
Yeah.
And at the time, it's like, well, I'm getting rejected from all these companies applying to jobs. Mm-hmm. And make me feel depressed. And then let me try this Upwork thing, pay them money for the same privilege of not getting it. So that lasted 2 weeks. It's like, you know what? I'm not paying them any. Whatever the connects I had in there, I didn't actually pay them any money. I had connects in the bank and I used them, and that was it. I got nothing from it. That was the very first thing. Was I started with that, and then I started going to a Chamber of Commerce event, and then so I started the first one was actually a good one, because it wasn't like a regular networking lunch, so to speak. They actually had a big, almost like a conference. They had booths set up with all these different vendors. Like, of course, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm nervous. So I walked around to every single one and introduced myself. And from there, I said, hey, try out this group, try out that group. So then from there, it started to build and build and build, where I started going to these different events and getting more comfortable and talking to people and learning about, okay, we'll try this event, we'll try this, and get into that. And then for me, I don't know when we dump this part or not, but I finally landed with a group that referred me to BNI. So I don't know if you heard, I'm sure you've heard of BNI, and realized, there was quite a cost to be a member there. And when I went to BNI, I visited a few times. The group I'm in is great. I really love their group, and got along with everyone very well. It's definitely felt like a good place where you just have fun. You're not there. It's obviously very serious, but at the same time, you just have fun. And we had meetings at 7:00 in the morning on Friday.
Oh, wow.
That's a commitment. And it's very fun for you to do that if you're going to be able to get up and do that every Friday.
Right.
But they do. And then as soon as I signed up, that's when I started getting clients.
Right.
Because there was people from that group that took me serious. Oh, the guy's putting up money? All right, he's serious. He's not going to stick around. Because I've seen it. Some people just float in and out of things.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not referring the business.
Sure.
So I really started to understand the whole referral, network that's out there and how the different games are played, and started to really understand how it works. And that's how I started. And I got a first few from my chapter, but then I decided that it's international. Like, one guy in our group went to vacation to Portugal and went to a BNI meeting.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, sounds like fun to my vacation, but whatever. But you can. So I visited a lot of chapters locally throughout my area, and partnered with CPAs to get referral business for them. And that's what's really helped me grow my business, is through those referrals, at least in the beginning. And I expect as my network grows and the reputation grows, I'm going to start to get additional referrals just from that web that I'm starting to
yeah, absolutely. You will. It's like you always hear that kind of saying of who you know is what matters, or who you know is what your net worth is, and all that kind of stuff. That really is true. And that's how I've grown. I mean, I run a lot of ads and do stuff like that, but like the biggest leaps that I've had in my business are just from knowing the right people.
Yes.
And the only way that you can do that is to go out and talk to a lot of people.
That's right. And that's what a lot of advice that I've received, and I feel like more and more now, because now it's grown enough where I got to keep on top of everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So, but do I feel like I never have lunch at home anymore? Like, I'm going out to lunch with somebody to do whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's a lot of that still.
And I think that compounds over time. I mean, it's just like investing. I mean, it really, because you're able to pull on, past relationships that you have, and they can connect you to the right people, and, somebody that needs your help with some things. I'm glad to hear that that's how you went about it, because I think that that's actually, because the Upwork, it surprises me sometimes. Like Upwork is probably my least favorite out of all the client acquisition strategies that we have, because it is very transactional. And some people love it though. Like we've got a coach for the Facebook Side Hustle course, Jacob, who he's built a 6-figure business just on Upwork. I'm just like, I don't know how you do that, but some people do that. But I think it's just kind of finding the niche that makes the most sense for you. But I think the most powerful way is what you're doing, where you get yourself out there and you actually talk to people.
Referral. Yeah.
Yeah. And because your business is just going to explode. So, I'm curious, after talking through all of this and hearing how your business has gone and everything, where do you want this to go? What is in that kind of manifestation, that we talked about earlier? What does it look like?
Hey, Ariel here from Stellar Brands. And for the rest of this episode, along with more fresh content that we are putting out through Stellar Brands, you can check out our brand new Stellar Brands YouTube channel. The link is in the description for the show. Give us a follow, like our videos, subscribe. We'd love it. And please check out the rest of this video there. Thanks.